Hello and welcome to my channel. Vice Rhino here. So today marks what appears to be the first time I've ever started one of these live streams without there being ridiculous amounts of technical difficulties. So for now, I guess that's a good thing. So anyway, what's going on here is I have decided to do a bit of a call-in show where you guys can call in and have a bit of a chat with me. I would prefer to talk to people that have disagreement with me in one way or another, but that's not necessary. You can just call in to chat. But yeah, just some ground rules. I do reserve the right to hang up on people if you get belligerent, but if you are respectful, then there's no reason why we can't have a productive conversation. So in a moment, I'm going to open up the lines. I have a toll-free number. Well, it's toll-free for North America. I'm not sure how that works internationally. So Canada and the U.S. can call in. I have no idea how other places would handle this. If you have, something like Skype or whatnot, you can make it work. But yeah, so I will be opening up the lines momentarily. You will speak with a screener first. Are the ones on screen paid? I don't know what that means, Gavin. I'm paid. No, I'm not paid. No, I don't pay people for this. What are you talking about? Okay, so... Oh, yeah, okay, so yeah, that was a question about the chat. No, this is just a chat box. It's easier to actually read the chat, and I can actually, keep up with it while the show is going on, so... I will open up the lines momentarily. You'll speak with my call screener, who is my lovely wife, Mrs. Rhino. She used to work in a call center, so be nice to her, because she knows how to deal with nasty people in call centers. So yeah, lines are open. Give her a call. She'll make some notes, and I will pick who I want to talk to. And I don't guarantee that I'm going to talk to you if you do get through. But, yeah, I will see how many people we get to. I plan on doing this for about an hour. And, yeah, so we've got some calls coming in. Okay, so I'll just chat with the people in the chat while she's doing some of the screening. So Texas is rhino country. Where are the rhinos in Texas, aside from the zoo? Do rhinos live in Texas? Oh, also there's super chats come up on the screen. I've got some nice new gifts. So that's we've got $2 from Jacob, who says, "Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant." Yes, that is tragic, but that's a sad one to get the brand new cute GIF with. DJ Strings Music says hi, and his girlfriend loves sitting down watching new Rhino, Zod, and Sir Sick videos. I love Zod. I haven't watched Sir Sick stuff in a while. I don't remember what he's like, honestly. Zod, I chat with him all the time. He's a cool guy. Houston, Texas. There are rhinos in Houston? Demimp says are there any topics you'd like to talk about? Obviously, I mostly deal with young Earth creationist stuff, but anything goes pretty much. Hi Shannon, I know you're starting your own stream in like 9 minutes, so thought I'd just recognize that you're here. Zod is not the best. I'm the best. Zod's pretty good though. So anyway, it looks like we've got Alex in our screening room, so let's get Alex on the line. Alex, hello.
Hey, bud. It's awesome.
How's it going?
To be on. This is Joker.
So, what's going on in Alex country? Oh, looks like Alex's call dropped. Okay, hello? Alex, is this you again?
Oh, hey, bud.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not sure what happened. I think you.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I see you've got a question for me about Hovind.
yeah. So I was wondering how does it feel to have him now officially try to get you to debate him because he's so desperate for just any type of attention now, because that's his just drift.
I almost want to say that yes, I'm happy that he commented. Like, it made me feel happy that he noticed me, but it's like he notices. Like, he's just an attention whore at this point. But yeah, so it was kind of neat that he finally commented on one of my videos. He clearly didn't watch it, or at least wasn't paying attention. But yeah, it was it was interesting. But I gave him the kind of response he deserves. Just a just what's it called, drunken stream. I thought about kind of like doing an official response to him, but it didn't quite. I didn't think it was worth it. You still there, Alex? Sorry, this is my first time using this call-in software, so if there are some glitches, I apologize. I think Alex kind of cut in and out at the beginning because I just think I accidentally returned him to the queue. But yeah. Ooh, so alkyl dimethyl benzyl ammonium chloride, who is one of my members, who I hate that you make me say that when you comment, says, I believed dinosaurs were fake until I was 18. Yeah, that's really something. I never believed that dinosaurs were fake. I'm not sure exactly how I thought about. I think that was a cognitive dissonance moment where I just kind of separated those. I think yeah, I just kind of separated those aspects of my, what do you call it, faith, I guess, faith versus science. Yeah. So why did I do a live call-in show at the same time as Shannon Q? Mostly because I didn't know Shannon was doing a show tonight. I don't know everybody else's schedules. I thought Jimmy of Dear Mr. Atheist was doing a call-in show tonight, so I actually did message him to ask what time he was doing it so I could do it at a different time. And then it turned out that he's not doing his this week. He's starting next week. So I did try to schedule it around other people, and then I apparently Jake is doing his trash stream tonight. So it's Sunday nights are a busy night for streaming, apparently. Okay, so Nick is coming up next. Hello, Nick.
Yes, hello.
Hi. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
I am fantastic. So you've got a question about siblings?
Yes. First of all, thank you for doing live stream tonight. My question was, do you have any siblings that you have confronted you about live Earth creationism? And if you have any advice on how I can deal with siblings that believe in creationism, but I don't.
I've never had any siblings that really believe in young Earth creationism. Um, I at least not any more than I was, but I found that with young Earth creationists, the best method is to just like a little bit at a time. Like there's not going to be one conversation that does the trick and that converts them away from young Earth creationism. It'll just be like asking questions, like how do you know style questions, like okay, like they like to do to us, like, oh well, how do you know the Earth is 4 billion years old? And it's like, okay, well, how do you know it isn't? Like outside the Bible, like we have all this science backing it up, and you can go through some of the science for it, but like how do you know that this science is inaccurate as opposed to like what's your basis for deciding that which science is accurate and which science is not?
Right.
So I'm sorry if I can't be more specific in my help with that. I actually have not had very many direct conversations with young Earth creationists. That's kind of why, yeah, I'm interested in doing a show like this, because I want to actually talk to some young Earth creationists. But yeah, it's basically just kind of questioning the epistemology, essentially.
Right. It just that I'm dealing with 7 siblings that all are like indoctrinated Catholic, and so they believe all of the old Christian doctrine that, young Earth creationism, all of the doctrine of the the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and it's just so frustrating because they won't even entertain a conversation. And so I'm trying to approach this in the most mature manner, but when they're so, far gone the other way, it's just really difficult.
Okay, well, being Catholic might actually make it easier because the Catholic Church officially does accept evolution. So theoretically, you should be able to just point to, I think it was Pope Francis, who made it official. Tommy Thomas sent $5. I'll read the phone number is kind of obstructing the comment. I'll read them at the end, but yeah, I think it was Pope Francis who officially made evolution part of their canon, and the Adam and Eve story is a metaphor, and whatnot. So yeah, it should be easier with Catholicism.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Right.
For calling.
Well, I thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye. Okay, so we've got another couple on the line. Let's see. Okay, Ozul? Am I saying that right?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
So
Hello.
you have was I saying your name right?
Oh, yes, of course. It's kind of hard. It's Romanian.
Okay, well, nothing wrong with Romanian. Oh, sorry. Frustrated Atheist wants me to do a sex hotline style voice. I don't know how I would do that.
No.
Bad timing on that, I guess. So you have a question about debates?
Yes, I wanted to see if it was even more of a thought, if you ever thought of trying to debate Steven Anderson. And the only reason I ask is because I actually live in the same state as he does.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. He's not being banned from
I
states
know.
yet?
What was that?
He's not being banned from states yet?
No, surprisingly. He actually lives in a different district of where I live, and it's kind of hard because I always get recommended videos from Arizona, and he happens to be the top list.
Yeah. So my opinion, as far as Matt Powell and Steven Anderson are concerned, I think I would have a conversation with Matt Powell if it was like over the internet and I could record everything on my end and there was no, like I know the Raging Atheist accused him and his crew of sabotaging his equipment. I don't know if there's any truth behind that accusation or not, but I know from what I've seen of Matt Powell that it would not surprise me if it was true. So I would not want to, I wouldn't want to have an in-person interview where that sort of thing is even possible, so I would want to do it online. And it would be a conversation rather than a structured debate. I really don't like the structured debate. Like a structured debate tends to go to the person who's more willing to be intellectually dishonest. So the person that can bring up 15 different topics and then say, and then when the other person only has time to address 2 or 3 of them and then complain that like, oh, this person, like he went through 2 or 3 different topics. And, oh, can you believe that? He's trying to gish gallop me right after they brought up 15, but they're trying to get it, they're trying to squish their 15 into one. So structured debates would just drive me nuts. Steven Anderson, I don't know if I would ever even want to talk to him. Like I don't know that anything could be gained from having a conversation with Steven Anderson. And
yeah, I could see why.
Like even in Matt Powell's case, the main reason I would be willing to have a conversation with him is because I have so much content on my channel with his face on it. Steve Anderson is kind of a sidekick in the Matt Powell stuff that's on my channel.
Yeah, at one point I used to think that he was actually a friend of Kent Hovind until I realized that he doesn't like him because the whole like idea of him not liking divorce, and then he realized, oh, Kent has a divorce like one times I think. But I can see why, especially because he's like the average angry hate preacher kind of thing, and it's going to be annoying when he's trying to call you a raging Canadian. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my position on that. I know Matt Powell's working on his second movie. I have yet to receive a debate invitation. I don't think he's going to. I think he prefers people that show their faces and whatnot. But I wouldn't.
Indeed,
it wouldn't surprise me if some clips from my my channel ended up in the second video. I probably won't even touch the second video unless he specifically addresses me. But
I could see why, especially because he spoke about other atheists among the lines. Like he spoke about Aaron, he spoke about Surus, along with many others. I think the only reason he chose Raging Atheist was because he was constantly in his face about him, like, hey, I'll debate you all I want, but I don't think he's gonna want to do it with someone who's a lot smarter with him, especially because, as one of your videos suggested about Matt Powell lying, Aaron would probably just annihilate him completely. Like, there's no contest.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Aaron would even give him the time of day. But actually, no, I think he does. I think he has an open invitation, so maybe he would. But yeah, I doubt he'll accept that invitation. Well,
yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for your call. We've got a few other people on the lines that I'd like to get to, so have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thanks so much for your time. You too.
Bye. All right, so next up, I think I'll skip down to Sarah. She wants to talk about mental health. I'm kind of intrigued. So, hello, Sarah.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how you're able to handle dealing with the people that you debate in your videos. By the way, I really love your videos. I'm a big fan.
Thank you very much. So your question is specifically with regards to my mental health and how I don't have a breakdown.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think it kind of helps. That's actually part of why I started the Evidence for Evolution series. Is that it does get tiresome seeing the same arguments time and time again, made in such an apparently dishonest way, and it does get hard to do sometimes. And so I kind of started the second series. So it's something to break up the monotony, I guess.
Yeah, I can understand that. But do you compartmentalize it, put it in a different part of your brain, or does it come back up when you're doing your everyday tasks or other things?
I don't know. It's just
the things that you debate.
I have always been a very laid back person. It takes a lot to get under my skin. So it just kind of I just kind of leave it in the office when I walk out. I might comment a couple things to Mrs. Rhino about oh, I can't believe that person thinks this thing, and then go about my day. But yeah, it's generally it's not really an issue for me.
Yeah, dude. I have two really my mom, she's on the fence, but my dad's very conservative Christian, so he still, I just had to cut him off because it started getting under my skin. The things he would say, he'd tell me because of this, I'm going to hell and all of that. And it's so hard, to kind of just put that aside. I guess I'm not as laid back as you, but
it's very different when it comes from a family member, someone that you're supposed to have a close relationship with. So yeah, it helps to understand. I assume you're old enough that you're not living with your parents, correct?
Well, I am right now. I'm about to move out though.
Okay, so basically, my advice in situations like that would be do what you need to survive. Don't get into fights if you're relying on them for support. But if you don't like if you don't need them for support and they are having a negative effect on your mental health, just because they are biologically related to you doesn't mean they need to be a close part of your life. Like it's
Yeah.
nice when families all work out and everything, but nobody has the perfect fairy tale family that where everybody gets along and everybody loves each other and whatnot. Everybody's family has issues, and
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for just ditching your family. Like he's your father, right? Like you do care about him, I assume.
Mm, I don't know right now.
I know I can't speak
But-
for you on that matter, but like if you
Yeah.
feel like you want the relationship, then I definitely recommend kind of doing what you can to kind of gently continue the relationship, but maybe at a distance. But
Yeah.
I don't. I think the mentality of like you have to have a good relationship, like you have to love your family no matter what because they are your family. I think that can be kind of harmful at times.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, I'm planning on just kind of cutting it off a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But anyways, I just wanted to see like how you're able to handle it.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anyone close in my life that is doing anything like that. But yeah, I recommend like keep the door open, but don't try and force it open. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your
Thanks
call.
for talking to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so next up, Adam wants to discuss my video. I'm not sure which one, and what made me choose to make videos. Hello, Adam.
Hi, Rhino. Can I call you Rhino?
You can, yeah. It's Mr. Rhino to you.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was just going to say, well, Mr. Rhino, of course. Not just, there was one, now I can't remember if you did it or not, and I think you did it, and if you didn't do it, that's okay. But about the guy that went to prison for beating his dad in the head with a hammer. Do you remember that video?
That's David Wood.
Is that
yeah.
you?
I have
Was
done a
it?
couple
Okay.
videos on David Wood.
Yeah. And I think that's my favorite video of yours. The one where he's talking about building a bridge. That might have been Logic.
Argument from
Forgive
Reason.
me.
Yeah, it was the Argument from Reason
Is that
video.
Yeah, I really like that video.
I'm glad
One of my
you enjoyed
favorites.
it. It's one of my older ones. It's always nice to hear when...
I've been a fan for a while, so.
All right, so you were going to ask another question?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you have a video on Pascal's Wager?
I do. It's probably my longest one on Pascal's Wager is the one with Sunday on it. I called it Sunday's Wager, I think.
Okay. Because that's one thing that I've always struggled of arguing against. Because I hate that argument. I think Pascal's Wager is such a dishonest. Well, it doesn't hurt anything, but how do you? Sorry, I don't mean to get flustered. It's been a rough day. But when it comes to like being, if you're only a good person because you fear eternal damnation, are you really a good person?
Yeah, exactly. There's more to it than that as well. As like, what if you believe in the wrong God? And then, like, if I live my life in accordance with how the Bible wants me to live my life, then yes, I have missed out on a lot of things in my life if I die and it turns out to be wrong. Like, it's one of the it's one of the weakest arguments in favor of any religion. But yeah, I have a video called Sunday's Wager: Do You Want Heaven or Hell? Where that's I guess gaming YouTuber Sunday did a Pascal's Wager video directed at his audience of young children.
I just, and to me, I really like your content. Always have. When you revealed what your name is, an anagram for Eric Open, I was like, oh, I wish I'd have noticed that before. That's clever.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't so much clever as lack of cleverness on my part. I'm really bad with screen names. So I've used anagrams in the past, and I just thought maybe I'll use an apologist anagram. Anagram.
All right. I'm gonna go back and watch your drunken video about Ken Hagen here a little bit later on.
That was a fun one. All right, I'm going to move on to the next caller now. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay, that's fine.
It's been fun. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Logan's been on hold for a while. Sorry to make you wait, Logan, but you want to talk Bible contradictions?
Yes, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry I'm not a theist, and I'm not defending any of the contradictions, but I've personally gone through all of the contradictions on the red rainbow. That one, the Bible Project.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, if you look up Bible Project contradictions, it's 400 and something, and it's like a red rainbow, listing from Genesis to Revelation, and it's got every callback to biblical passages, and it's like a big giant red rainbow.
Oh, okay,
and then there's
okay. I know what you're talking. I thought you were talking about something called a red rainbow. I know what you're talking about. The graphic.
Mhm. And you can hover your mouse over it, or you can zoom in on it, and it has verse by verse.
Yeah, let me just. Yeah. I see what you're getting at. Yes.
And then the Skeptics Annotated Bible.
Yeah.
Some of those are shared.
Yeah, that's a resource that I use semi-frequently.
On my bookshelf right here, I have a revised standard version where I have on the right-hand side a sticky note for every single contradiction. The right side of the book is twice the width of the binding on the left. But listening to apologetics, for instance, Inspiring Philosophy, you've made a video on him before.
Yeah.
Going through each of the contradictions, I'm taking out some at a time, and I'm trying to be intellectually honest with these, and it appears like nearly half of these could just be dismissed by the Rorschach test, where it's basically you see what you want to see.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
So I'm wondering. Keep going.
Go ahead.
No, you.
I was just going to say that it's a common theme with the contradictions is that they aren't necessarily contradictions because there are a lot of them are so vague that they could be referring to other things. But in my opinion, if you are the all-powerful creator of the universe and you have an important message that you want to get across to one of your creations, you can do it without looking like an idiot.
Right, God is not the author of confusion. The word of God is plain and clear. That's what you could interpret from Romans 1:20. Yeah, I see that. But then you go on and on and on. For instance, the Judges 1:19, the big popular one, Iron Chariots wiki's based off of it. And it was they could not stop them for they had chariots of iron is the word, but then it comes down to translation, really. It could be he could not stop them, or they could not stop them, or whatever. So I'm just...
Well,
I've gone through each one.
I've heard an interpretation of the Chariots of Iron one being that God was with them, but he really didn't want them to win that one. It wasn't his will to win, so he let them lose, and then they came up with that excuse it was the Chariots of Iron, which doesn't really make sense, but that's one of the excuses I've heard.
Right. I've read through every one of them. It took 2.5 weeks to go through the entire list, and the more convincing ones are really solid, and I like to point to them. But it's really annoying when people choose the softballs when arguing online, and I have to correct them and be like, hey, this one's clearly not a contradiction. Like the Philistines' foreskins one, that's not a contradiction.
Yeah, well, there are some that are easy enough to, Yeah, and that's actually what I noticed when I was going through the AIG Demolishing Supposed Biblical Contradictions book for one of my recent videos. I had a hard time picking which chapters to do because most of the chapters are just stuff that I would like, yeah, I agree, that's not a contradiction. Like, yeah, I can see how it looks like one, but I can also see that it's not really a contradiction. It's not an issue. But some of them are. And what I find really interesting, there was one, I forget which one it was. It was the one about Judas betraying, or it was something in the Passion narrative with the
Was it his
with
hanging
Judas's
or?
yeah, how Judas died. It was Judas's death.
So he fell headlong, and I think it was John. He fell headlong, or Luke. But then another book says that he fell headlong and his guts exploded, and then another says simply that he just hanged himself.
Yeah.
Which, how do you fall headlong if your feet are above the ground first?
Well, they say, actually, that's one of the fun spots where the New International Version, which likes to sneak apologetics into their footnotes, it actually has a footnote saying that an alternate translation for fell headlong is or swelled up or something like that. And NIV is the only translation that says that.
Yeah.
And when I looked it up in the concordance, there's no possible way that it could be interpreted that way. But what I found interesting about that was he did the whole stitch it together and he hanged himself and then the body got all swollen and then the rope broke and that's when he fell and his guts spilled out, because you don't have your guts spilled out just from falling on the ground. You have to be dead for a week first. So that's how they put it together. But what I find really amusing about that is they actually read through another contradiction that is a blatantly obvious one that they don't even try to fix, and that's who bought the field that he hanged himself in. Because in the Gospels, he threw the silver back in the temple, and then the chief priest took the money and bought a field, and then he hanged himself and died. Whereas in Acts it says that he bought a field with the reward from his wickedness, and then he tripped and fell headlong in the field and his guts burst out. It specifically says, they both have why it's called the Field of Blood, but they have two different reasons for them, and they are mutually exclusive. I have seen people try to make those ones fit by saying because he gave the money to the Pharisees and then the Pharisees bought the field, that's like your kid, you pay your kid an allowance and then they bought a toy, but saying that you bought the toy for them sort of thing. It's technically, yeah, I guess that works, but no, not really.
Yeah, I didn't know that thing about the apologetics slip in by the New International Version, I think you said. But that's the explanation.
There are a few spots in the NIV. There are a few spots in the NIV where they sneak apologetics into their footnotes.
Because I only have a New American Standard and a revised back to back, and then the Quran on the right, and then the God Delusion by Richard Dawkins to the right of that.
Oh, I'm looking at the pile. I've got my NIV Bible that I've had since I was 13. I've got the
Corinthians falling out.
I've got the Anchor Bible, Genesis, by E.A. Spicer. That was someone bought that and sent it to me. I've got Demolishing Supposed Biblical Contradictions Volumes 1 and 2, and I've got my Strong's Expanded Exhaustive Concordance, which is quite possibly the largest book that I have ever owned. So, anyway,
what did I want to say?
Thank you so much for calling. I want to get on to some of the other callers.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your call. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Okay, next up, I want to talk to the Prince of Atheism. Wonder who that is. Hello, Prince of Atheism.
Rhino.
Oh, your name. You sound familiar. Is this Jackson Wheat?
No. You might have seen me on Twitter a time or two.
Okay, well, you sound kind of like Jackson Wheat.
Well, that is definitely not me.
Okay. All right.
I just wanted to use my Twitter name rather than my actual name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably have seen you on Twitter.
I'm out as an atheist, but better if my family doesn't know about my online presence.
Okay. So what's up?
So I wanted to actually ask for some advice, but first, what kind of when you were still a believer, what exactly did you do in your church?
Like, what do you mean? What roles did I take on?
Yeah,
So I was on the
wondering
worship.
if you'd be able to relate to my position.
I was on the worship team. I played guitar. But yeah, I wasn't super involved.
Hmm. I'm trying to figure out. I'm in a bit of a predicament where some of the like I was a teacher at my former church, and I'm having some issues with the preteens that are now teens, and they're learning more about the church, but still sheltered very heavily. Are they're learning about why I left the church, and they're feeling really sad about me and trying to reach out to me, and I'm trying to figure out how to be a beneficial part of their lives without causing any trouble. And I was wondering if there was any advice you could offer on that front.
Um, I mean, are they your peers, or would they be like? Um,
I'm 26. They're like 14.
okay, so it would probably be a little bit inappropriate for you to just be hanging out with them.
Yeah.
Um,
But I'm trying to figure out how to help them out without like stirring the pot too much because I left the church, but it was under like it wasn't under any there wasn't any big fights or anything, and most of the people there handled it fairly well, aside from one or two members of the leadership. So I don't really want to cause any trouble, and I don't want to get the kids in trouble, but I'm wondering if you have any experience that might be able to translate to my predicament.
I mean, I would suggest just like if they show interest in knowing, just explain it to them as respectfully as possible. Like don't try it don't try and tell them like obviously the Bible's not true because such and such. Um, but yeah, so maybe like just go through the reasons, be like, and explain it with using do the psychology thing and use I statements like, well, I was no longer convinced by this. You know, if that convinces you, that's fine, but it was a problem for me. And, just kind of phrase things that way. Be non-confrontational, let them come to you rather than going after them. Especially with the age difference there, that could be a bit of an issue. But,
Just a bit.
yeah.
Yeah, the tough part is that it was some pretty heavy stuff that I ended up teaching them when I was like because it was Answers in Genesis material,
Yeah, well,
which is why I'm really worried and hoping
well,
like I'm hoping to undo the damage because that's pretty damaging. It messed me up for a while.
well, then in that case, I would recommend maybe going to them and be like, I'm sorry, I think that, like, I was convinced the things I was teaching was true when I taught them, but now I can't continue to teach them because I no longer think they're true. And then if you want to kind of like not to toot my own horn here, but that's kind of one of the purposes of my Evidence for Evolution series is to be something that is approachable for creationists. Like I'm not going to be swearing in that series. I'm keeping the dick jokes to a minimum. Um, and so like
How is that stuff on an educational level? Like would it be something that like
it's
a preteen or young teen could be able to watch and understand?
it's very basic. I'm probably not even going into as much detail as high school biology classes would. Um, like I am trying to keep it very approachable. So if biology is a subject that interests them and they are interested in finding out why, like what the evidence is for evolution, then that's kind of who the series is directed at.
All right. Okay. Now I have a resource I can
Yeah, it's still
put a
in its
pin in and
infancy. The
save for later.
it's only 3 episodes long as of tomorrow. It's every Monday there's going to be a new one.
But you homeschool, right?
We used to homeschool. We got to a point where that was no longer viable, and I had always kind of gone with the idea of like when it gets to a point where I no longer feel like I can appropriately educate my children, I will just send them straight to school, and it got to that point, and so we sent them to school.
Okay. But you have an idea of how to actually portray the information such that they would understand it, which is
Yeah, but I mean,
pretty
my
good. All
my
right.
kids.
I'll have to keep following that.
All right. Well,
And
yeah.
just as a closing note, just want to say thank you. You were one of the people that helped me out of fundamentalism.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So, yeah, we've got a
Oh, thank you.
lot of people waiting, so I'm
I'll
gonna.
let you get on.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
All right. So next up, let's talk to Gavin. Gavin, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
No problem. So you've got a life partner with different religious views?
Yes. So, I had come from an extremely fundamentalist home, and I won't go into detail, but I wasn't exactly the greatest of person because of those teachings I grew up with. Now, my girlfriend, when I met her, was also atheist. However, she has recently begun to feel called towards Christianity again. I was having trouble processing how I could support her with her emotional needs, while also being firm that I don't endorse the church at all.
Well, I mean, so a change of religion doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship ender. Now, this isn't an issue that I've ever personally dealt with. I mean, Mrs. Rhino was always kind of like she's always just kind of not really cared that much about religious views. So she, like, when I was a Christian, she was fine with it. She'd go to church with me, and we'd do the whole church thing. And then I spent like a year going to church as an atheist, afraid to tell her that I was an atheist now. And when I finally came out, it was just like, okay, so. And then we just went about life as normal. So take my advice with a grain of salt, but I know his show's very diverse, so it might be hard to find some of the specific episodes. But I know Seth Andrews is married to a Christian, and he's the thinking atheist.
Okay.
And I know he talks about his relationship a few times on the show. It's just basically be respectful, like allow her to do her thing. Don't get into arguments. Or I'm sorry, I'm saying her. I'm making an assumption, but.
It is my girlfriend.
Okay, yeah.
You're right in that assumption.
Okay, so so yeah, like just like if she wants to discuss it with you, then absolutely, it's no problem having a respectful discussion. But if she just wants to do her own thing, then they're like, people are their own people. You can't control your spouse.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's just difficult given a very rocky history with the church.
Yeah. I mean, it helps. Like, what, if you don't mind my asking, is it like, is she getting into like a fundamentalist denomination, or is it just more one of the wishy-washy ones?
The church in our neighborhood is quite fundamentalist, which I especially fear for because she is bisexual. So if the church found out about it, I don't want her to have to essentially recloset herself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know about it, and you're there to support her. So so yeah, I for that I might be tempted just to say seek professional help for that. Like I'm not qualified to give this kind of help, but like the best advice that I can give.
Sorry, I kind of put you on the spot here.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But the best advice I could give, aside from just seek professional help, would be to just try and accept her for who she is and be supportive of her decisions.
Of course.
But, in the chat they brought up Megan Bowen as well. So that's Josh and Megan of Digital Hammurabi. So Josh, I believe, is an atheist or agnostic, or atheist agnostic, whatever he identifies as. But Megan is a Christian as well, though she is nowhere close to fundamentalism. So But they're on Twitter as well as
Seth Andrews, and what was the other name?
the other two are Josh and Megan of the YouTube channel Digital Hammurabi. They're on Twitter as well.
Oh, okay.
So
Thank
they've
you
got
very much.
they've got a bit of a smaller audience, so they might be easier to get in touch with if you want someone to kind of talk to about similar experiences.
Right. Awesome. Thank you very much, Rhino.
All right, thanks for calling. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Okay, so next up, let's talk to Danny. I think I clicked the button. Talk? I clicked the talk button. Oh, hello, Danny.
Hi.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
Wonderful. I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I am fantastic. So I see you've got a question about the power that beliefs have?
Yeah. So I want to preface this by I'm an atheist. I don't really have any beliefs in supernatural or God entities and any of those sorts of things. But I think that our brains are very powerful in affecting our experience of the world. And because our beliefs are things that we hold in our brains, they have power to really profoundly impact the way that we experience the world.
Yes.
And I think that results in really interesting things that I can't really explain in any other way. But I'm not sure if that's a rational belief to hold, or if I should just say that I don't know and I don't understand.
So you're saying you've experienced things that seem supernatural, but you have no natural explanation for it, or you're just saying that the way our brains work seems supernatural?
I personally haven't, but I think a good example of this, and I don't know like the specific tribe or like spiritual and religious beliefs that these people have, but there's a documentary that Morgan Freeman did about God, and one of these ideas and groups that he looked into was this display. It's almost like a parade where these people channel these what they believe to be divine spirits, and it gives them the power. They believe that it gives them the power to do really horrific things to themselves, and then they don't scar, they barely bleed, and it's amazing the like grotesque things that they do. Like they'll put 6 swords pierced through their mouths and a lot of different like body piercing to the extremes to show how much pain and that it's not painful for them, but like this is what they can take and endure through channeling these spirits. And I don't know how to explain something like that, but it's something that we can see and something that has been looked into, and in the sense that
so that
I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling.
that does sound familiar. I think I've seen I may have seen that documentary. I don't know what the exact explanation for that would be outside of maybe an extreme placebo effect. But because we know medically speaking the brain is quite a powerful thing.
Absolutely.
And there have actually been instances of like doctors running out of medicine and treating people with placebos just to keep their pain in check until they could get more morphine or whatever they were waiting for. They actually they did a good job. They did a good job of covering that in the TV show MASH. I used to love MASH. I've seen probably every episode, I think. And when I looked into that, it was actually based on a historic event. It was something that happened in, I think it was World War One, where they ran out of medicine and they actually probably saved people's lives by giving them sugar pills and telling them they were morphine. And it's the same way a lot of pseudoscience works, like homeopathy. When it works, it's because it's the placebo effect. But the problem with that is the placebo effect is temporary. So, like, yeah, it might be impressive in the moment, but without the follow-up medical attention, there are problems. So, yeah, like in this World War One scenario, yes, they were treating these soldiers' pain with placebos, but it wasn't working for everybody. And if they didn't get actual painkillers, then eventually it would stop working for those people, and they probably would have ended up dead. But yeah, our brains are powerful things, is what it comes to at the end of the day, and we don't really know how they work completely. So
yeah, that is really. I think the reason that I bring this up and that I've thought about this is because I really think it's the reason that people hold their beliefs so deeply. There's all of this influence that we have through societies and cultures and family units and things that we live in and are constantly influenced by. And it shapes our and like trains our brain to have these sorts of responses to things. And I guess it just feels hard to be able to bring someone and convince someone otherwise, convince someone to be more skeptical about this thing rather than accepting this thing that confirms their belief.
Well, the thing about that is, like, it might like, I don't know how a tribe being able to do crazy stuff like that would confirm, say, a Christian belief or a Muslim belief or anything outside of the belief of that tribe. So I think that's more of a, like, this shows that, like, strange things happen. It's a universal feature. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is a supernatural interference here. Otherwise, these people's gods must be real as well, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you'll excuse me, we've still got a few people waiting. I'm probably going to cut the stream off in about 5 minutes. So we might have maybe two more calls. So thank you so much for calling, Danny. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Okay. So I'm going to get to maybe two more calls. Let's go for Josh next. Josh, you're on the air. How's it going?
Hi. Good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. So you wanted to talk about atheism as a brand?
Yeah, I just kind of all the negative stigmas that come with self-labeling as an atheist. My roommate actually just kind of compared, he's also an atheist, but he kind of compared it to a lot of atheists are kind of in the way of a sense of superiority and everything like that. I didn't know if it's something that you kind of experience, or if it's something that can be helped by just self-labeling as agnostic instead, or perspective on it was.
Well, the way I've seen it, no, I don't want to get into an argument about the definition of atheism and whether it means I just lack a belief in God or whether it means I'm asserting a positive belief that there are no gods.
It gets really technical really quick.
Yeah, I'm just not even interested in that conversation. Like, when you're talking about labels that people use for themselves, it's important to figure out how that person is using the label. So yes, they might call themselves an atheist, but they don't mean the same thing by atheist as like I've brought her up in my videos before. I used to work with a person who she called herself an atheist, but she believed that we are all pan-dimensional immortal beings who insert ourselves into mortal life as a form of entertainment in between lives. So that's not the typical person you think of when you think of an atheist. But yeah, I would like to see there be less stigma around the brand, because a lot of people just automatically assume when they assume certain things about you when they hear the word atheist. And that's usually not the case. I mean, most of like my circle of friends that like most of them are YouTubers, but like they are a lot of times they're the most humble people that if you correct them on something, they will issue a correction. Be like, oh, I just want to be, I want to believe true things. So if you can convince me that something is true, then I have no reason to not believe that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So would you say that just trying to forgo a label as much would probably be the most beneficial thing?
As a label, it really whatever you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable going around and saying I am an atheist and dealing with the conversations that result from that, then go for it. The more people that are willing to identify as atheists will make it easier for the ones that come after that. Yeah, like I don't really like if you would prefer to identify as an agnostic because that's easier for you, then like it really depends on what you're comfortable dealing with. If that makes sense. All right. Well, thanks for calling. I want to see if I can get to one more call.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
You too. Have a wonderful evening. Okay, so I'm going to take one more call. I apologize to those of you who are on hold who aren't going to get through tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna take Boogieman because I think I know who this is. Hello, Boogieman.
Hello, talking Rhino. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you.
Yeah. So, you don't have a YouTube channel anymore, do you? Or if you have, it's moved.
I gave up.
So,
I give up.
So for those of you who are unfamiliar, this is Boogieman. He's one of my oldest subscribers. He's actually been on my channel. He made a video with me on I forgot what it was, but we talked about diarrhea a lot, I think.
Yeah, I think it was why are atheists going to hell?
Yeah, something like that. It's an older video, but I still get occasional people that comment on it. They're like, "Oh, where'd Boogieman go? He doesn't have a channel anymore." But it's good to hear that you're still around.
Thank you. And I'm glad your channel is doing very well. And I enjoy your content a lot.
I'm glad you do.
Very entertaining. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So what do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but in one of your videos you said there are evidence for God, but not good evidence.
Yeah.
And do you still think same way?
I would tend to agree that there is evidence for God, but not good evidence. So, for instance, the Bible, the existence of the Bible is evidence for God. It's not good evidence, in my opinion. It's not convincing evidence, but it is evidence. I know some people.
So what do you think? Okay.
Well, I know one of the big pushbacks I got for that statement was that people saying that in order to be evidence, it has to exclusively point to one conclusion. I don't necessarily think that's true. I can't think of an example right now, but like, okay, so here we go. I have a bunch of 3D printed materials laying around my house. There's like little bits and doodads and things that have been 3D printed. That is evidence that I have a 3D printer. But it could also be evidence that I go to the library all the time and use their 3D printer. So it's an observable fact that I have these things, and depending on other observable facts, it could be evidence for more than it's not exclusively evidence that I have a 3D printer. It's not exclusively evidence that I go to the library for a 3D printer, but it could be evidence for either. So what really makes the case is the preponderance of evidence when you collect other things like, I also have a little garbage can sitting in my dining room that's full of little bits of like all the scrap plastic that ends up when you make a 3D print. Okay, he probably didn't get those from the library. Those are probably from his 3D printer. So you add those two together, and that points specifically to me having a 3D printer over using the libraries. But just the one fact of having 3D prints itself does not point specifically to one over the other. You understand that?
Okay. Yes, I understand you. But the thing is, most of the arguments that I hear about God, I can't even understand. Well, I do understand where they're pointing or where they're coming from, but I don't see how it's pointing to the God exclusively or otherwise. You know what I mean? I think it doesn't point to God at all, and I think they're just confusing concepts. Like, for example, when they say like complicate something's complicated, therefore it was created, they're making the assumption that just because humans make complicated things and human needs brains or need to be smart to make complicated things, therefore anything that's complicated must have a brain behind it.
Yeah, I'd agree. That doesn't necessarily like I've seen the Kalam cosmological argument popping up a lot on Twitter recently. Basically everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe had a cause, and that's supposed to somehow get us to God. Even if first off, premise one, everything that begins to exist has a cause. That's not necessarily the case. Like, we don't know that. We actually don't have everything that exists now is a recombination of atoms that already existed. Nothing truly new has popped into it. Like when you make a car, you didn't make it out of nothing. You made it out of other materials that already existed. So we don't really have an example of something that began to exist in the sense that argument requires. And even as far as the universe is concerned, we can measure back to the Big Bang. We don't know what happened before the Big Bang. We don't even know if the question of before is even meaningful for the Big Bang. It's just. Sorry.
So what I'm trying to say, it's like they're saying that the Kalam isn't basically if you wanna take it Kalam argument seriously, it's the best it can do. It's point out that there's a cause to the universe.
Yeah.
But God can't be a cause because it's not affecting anything. You know what I mean? It's not even a physical thing. How can it be a cause? In the definition of the word cause.
Yeah, like the Kalam doesn't even get you to a God. It just gets you to a cause. But
yeah.
So I wouldn't.
God
so arguments like that, I don't necessarily arguments are not evidence. So evidence is like something that is like something tangible that can actually be measured, whereas like an argument is just a logical deduction. Like you like premise 1 plus premise 2 equals conclusion sort of thing. So evidence would be like the existence of the Bible is evidence, or the existence of the Quran is evidence. So like there is a difference between arguments and evidence, but I stand by my statement that there is evidence for God. It's just not good evidence.
All right. Well, thank you for.
It's been great.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for hosting this one.
Well, thanks for calling in. It's been nice chatting again. So
it was nice for me too. Thank you, and have a good night.
Yeah, have a wonderful evening. Okay, so that's all the calls I'll be doing for tonight. Thank you so much for everyone who called in. I'm sorry for the people that couldn't get through, or the people that got through to Mrs. Rhino but didn't quite make it to me. This is fun. I hope to do it again sometime. Just before we go, we got a few super chats that I need to read out. Let me just drag this over here so I can actually see. Okay, so the one I didn't see earlier said it's from Tommy Thomas, who sent $5, said, I tried to justify science with the Bible for years. Couldn't be done. It took me 50 years to realize this. What a waste of my mind and time. That's unfortunate, and that's actually, in my experience, that's one of the reasons that atheists often go through an angry stage. because like you come out of religion thinking I've wasted so much of my life on this garbage and I spent so much time doing things that don't even matter, and it makes you angry. And I've been there, and most atheists that most atheists that come out of religion have been through that. So it's very relatable. Mark Beiser is a new member at the Baby Rhinos level. I have memberships on my channel now, by the way. So that's a thing. Mr. Bear says, good job, Mr. Rhino. Nice format. Thank you, Mr. Bear. And Marconius said, are we doing super chats? I'm not a patron, so here's some money to make up for it. Thank you, Marconius. I appreciate that. Super chats are always available on streams and, what are they called? Premieres. They're always available, but of course they're not necessary. But thank you so much, guys. It's been a lot of fun. I see people in the chat saying to stop with politics. I guess I missed a few conversations. So yeah, maybe I'll watch through and actually read the chat next time. Oh, is 1,000 yen $148? Holy, that is amazing. Thank you very much, Marconius. I see S. Gloobles in the chat. That's fun. S. Glooble, hi. It's always fun seeing you in my comment section and in my chats. If you ever get, if I will do a call-in show again, I will give priority to people like S. Glooble and Fist Bump, because I think those would be fascinating conversations that would probably take over the whole show. But thanks so much for joining me, guys. It's been a slice. See you next time. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. is my next Evidence for Evolution video. Coming up, I'm doing a collaboration with someone on Friday, so Friday at noon. My patrons already know about it. So Friday at noon will be my collaboration. It's a two-parter, and it's a very long video featuring Eric Hovind. So talk to you later, guys. See you next time. Bye.